everybody, and welcome back to Hooked on Hitchcock. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I've got my co-host,
G Larry Butler.
G Larry Butler is here, and we're here to talk about the Alfred Hitchcock film Torn Curtain. And first of all, I remember seeing this, and when I first was about to watch it, I thought I had turned this off. I think I had turned another movie of his off because I think I've seen this movie all the way through and actually liked it a lot, a lot back then, and even I like it probably more today since I've seen it more, a couple times now. I think it's a movie that kind of grows on you for sure. Um, but Larry, this is your first time watching it, huh?
Yeah, and I'm a little torn about this. Did you get that? Yeah, but
Yeah, I
really, I
think I think
am.
that you were very subtle on that joke.
Yeah, I mean, it's because number one, Julie Andrews. Every time I see her, I think of Mary Poppins,
He did
and
too.
she I always, she's not a sexy woman. I mean, she's pretty, but she's not sexy. You know what I mean? She's so innocent looking. I keep thinking she's a nun. So she's in bed and she's not getting none, but pretty close. And with Paul Newman, my God, a sex god,
Right.
and the kissing and stuff. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, there
And
wasn't
the
that
whole
great of
throughout the whole movie,
chemistry, to be honest, in the movie.
yeah, I can't wrap my head around how this is such a great movie. And
I,
I saw all the reviews. Some liked it, some didn't, and some hated it. I didn't hate it, but it was probably one of his weakest movies, Hitchcock.
you think
I really
so?
wasn't enthralled with it. Yeah. Well, to me, it was pretty good near the end when all the people were on the bus, and they're trying to escape and
So,
everything. And then it got a little more suspenseful. But it
yeah.
wasn't really suspenseful. The first two-thirds of it, it was kind of plodding and rigid, and it just wasn't intriguing to me.
So there were a
A
few
little bit
few
intellectual,
Hitchcock
but the
type
math.
moments, that made the movie.
Yeah, there were when they're having the fight and stuff like that. But we'll get to that later.
hmm
I
So
don't want to get ahead of the audience. Take them through the plot,
yeah,
but we'll
we'll take them
discuss.
through the plot. We'll let people know what's going on. So, um, I'll read sort of what Wikipedia like their plot for it is, and
All
then
right.
every now and then we can like, chime in if you feel like there's something there you want to talk about. You know what I mean? Um,
Okay.
but first off, let's see. Where is it? Here it is, Torn Curtain. All right, the plot. That's a pretty lengthy plot too, so that we'll get through a lot of stuff. In 1965, Michael Armstrong, a U.S. physicist and rocket scientist, is traveling to a conference in Copenhagen with his assistant slash fiance, Sarah Sherman. Armstrong receives a radiogram to pick up a book in Copenhagen. It contains a message which says contact Pi in case of emergency, right? He
Mm-hmm.
tells Sherman he's going to Stockholm, but she discovers he's flying to East Berlin and follows him. So let's break that down. Let's break all that stuff down. So in the beginning of the movie,
Yeah.
they're on like a cruise, right? It was like a cruise ship kind of thing. Something
Yeah,
like
it's a big ship that it's like an icebreaker ship because they
a
go through this
Titanic.
fjord and everything's cold. Did you notice that? Even
Yeah,
the water in the guy's glass is he has to break it open. It's locks out. It's kind of funny, because it's so frigid that ice water freezes, so he can't drink any. And everybody says, "Oh, it's so cold! It's so cold!" And people are discussing, well, perhaps that's a subtle thing about the Cold War or something. It's an
right.
allusion to the Cold War, which everybody was a little frigid towards each other. So
Yep.
anyway, I mean, it was kind of like not t- terribly necessary to do that. Maybe they were just having fun with it.
Maybe.
Um, and Hitchcock was definitely different on this one. Um,
Yep.
so we're introduced to Michael. What's his name?
Armstrong.
Michael Armstrong. I should know that. That's my mother's maiden name. Michael Armstrong, and he's a physicist. He's a nuclear scientist, and he's there to give a lecture with his assistant and his fiance. But and then he's kind of rude to her. He's kind of dismissive because she keeps
Mm-hmm.
wanting to be with him so much, and he keeps saying, "Well, I mean, you were the one that insisted on coming. I have too much to do. I have to stay busy, and you just can't be around me all the time." And she's looking hurt, and so she's showing a lot of emotions. And then she finally gets up and leaves the table because he wants to go to Stockholm and doesn't want to take her with him. And she finds excuses why he should take her because she can cook, she can do all this stuff for him. No, absolutely not. And he's not even looking at her in the eye. He was just looking down the whole
Mm-hmm.
time. So she's finally got the clue, like, I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm going home.
Right.
So when she
But
goes to the front desk of the concierge, she finds out that he's not going to Stockholm at all.
no, no.
He's Berlin. So then go ahead and take it from there.
Well, don't forget that earlier too, she would like answer his phone and stuff, and like there was a person on the other end from a bookstore, right, that was there.
Right, right,
And
right.
so they kept telling him like his book is there and stuff. And
Yeah,
she was like, "Oh, I'll just go pick up your book." And he's like,
yeah,
"Whoa, wait, huh?" He's in the
right.
shower
She
going, "Oh my
wants to do him
God,
a
don't go
favor.
there."
Yeah, well, too late. She already left.
Yep, she
So he
left.
goes, and this other guy tails along. I don't know what the heck his
So that guy
he's
was
kind of
one of the German guys from
well,
East
he's a
Berlin.
spy. He's
Yeah.
one of the spies, and
Yep.
he looks really suspicious. He's really got these great looks, like he looks sideways at people, and constantly scrutinizes them. And so he's watching her when they give her the book, and then he hides when the guy sees him. He kind
Yep.
of ducks behind a bookcase, and so he's guilty of something. So anyway, but she brings the book to her fiance, to Mike, and then he takes it in the bathroom. And
Yeah, well, it says
and
he's
what?
gonna leave it with the concierge, and then he completely goes the opposite way.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
like the
It
the the
wasn't
funny
very
thing about that
sneaky
is
of
you
him.
can see her watching him do that.
Yeah,
Like
well, he's not a very good spy,
he's the worst. Well, he
so
was.
he
He's
just
not
like very
real. He's
blatant.
not supposed to be a spy, which
Well, this is very complicated. We'll get to that at the end, but he goes in there and turns to page 107, and there's a picture of a pie in the script, and so it's underlined.
like
And
we
so,
gotta specify that for people who have not seen this movie. But pie, like
oh
the
yeah,
symbol
right.
pie, not like a slice of pie or something,
No,
but
it's
like
it's
the
not a
symbol
not a pie.
pie.
Yeah.
You
Any
know.
mathematicians out there, you'll know what that means.
Yeah, or people who
So
just hopefully studied it in school, like, 3.14 is pi.
I
It's not.
couldn't figure out what it meant. I mean, what was its real meaning? Just find a mathematician somewhere, or
I
was the
think even
guy's
though the
name
lady explained it, I think it was the lady. One of the people explained it that it was that the person was a farmer, or not a farmer, mathematician.
right?
Like the husband was a former husband was a mathematician. I think the husband had died or something. And so that
Right.
was like their code, and I think it was this code for this company, for this group of like people, because like
Oh,
later, as we'll get to, the people that are escaping, I think that's part of the Pi group, you know.
like the Illuminati or something.
Yeah, something like
The
that.
secret group, yeah, the
A secret
Freedom
group
Lovers.
of spies, I guess, or whatever, where people are
Yeah.
trying to do things in East Berlin that they shouldn't be doing. Um, or is it West Berlin? Which one's
It,
bad?
it,
East Berlin?
well, they're in East Berlin, but their sympathies are with the West.
Right.
They're trying to escape
And
because they put the
so
wall up in 61 and it wasn't taken down till 89. So that was almost 30 years.
so when she
And
finds out that he is actually planning to go to East Berlin, she gets a ticket of the same flight to go to East
right,
Berlin.
she's sitting at
Uh,
the back of the plane.
I know, which I absolutely love, like where he looks and he sees her and he's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah,
And he has
yeah,
to
yeah,
walk up to her and like tell her you shouldn't have come, like you need to get on the next plane and get the hell out of here because this
yeah,
does not
yeah. Did
concern
you
you.
notice? Did you notice how much they used the word hell? I mean, that was the equivalent of using the F word for
Yep.
us. I think they were just starting to be allowed to use it, so they kept saying it a lot. It was kind of gratuitous, like "oh the hell with you" or "to the hell with it, I don't care," that sort of thing. They were saying it a lot. I was kind of chuckling over that. It's
That
like
reminds
we
me of
just
like
use hell.
South Park did a whole bit where when they finally were allowed to say shit on the air, like on
Oh
TV,
yeah,
they made a whole
yeah, yeah.
show where they do nothing but say shit all the
Right,
time. And it was a big,
yeah,
big deal. And
right,
I thought
right.
that was really funny. You know,
I just did a movie. I played Michael Myers' father in some movie, and then up in North in Washington State, and everybody was saying the F word, but like too much. Even the little girl that was playing my sidekick, she's only like 15 years old. Everybody's saying F this, F this, F this. It's like, isn't this a little effing too much?
it is. I feel
So
like
anyway,
I feel like, you know, like at one point it might have been kind of like this cool like when you could get away with it like when you're saying like you can say to hell with you or whatever and you're saying it
yeah.
too much they're probably doing it because now we're allowed and we're gonna use and abuse it.
We
um
did it losing its impact.
right.
It used to be quite shocking when you said that. Now it's like F this, F this.
I'm trying to remember
So
the line
who
I
effing
heard.
cares?
Oh, it was from the movie Kickboxer 2. There's a great line where the guy says, where Sasha Mitchell's character says, "You know what? You got a big mouth." And you start using curse words all the time. He's talking to a kid, right? And then you're just like
Uh-huh.
you say, you start to say the curse words so much, they start to lose their meaning, right? And he looks at her and goes, "Fuck you." Like it says that to him.
Oh, you can
That
say
was just
that?
that was great. What?
Well, that's fucking great. I didn't know you could say fuck on the air.
Oh, me? Yeah,
Well,
we
anyway,
can
I
say
guess
as
you can.
many curse words
On,
as
on
we can
your on
on
your
Podbean.
podcast, we're
Um,
gonna have to think of a new word that talks even more than that. So in the
yeah.
future. Okay,
So
well,
let's get back to the torn curtain. So we
yeah.
get we always
All
get a
right.
little lost, but torn curtain.
I know, but
So
that's the fun of it. That's what makes it special.
yeah, of course. But we also want to stay on target. Um,
Yes.
so he comes back and so she's on the plane and the German guy that we didn't mention before that he kept wanting to have like dinner with her or he didn't even know that they were
Yeah.
married. He just thought
Right.
he was his assistant or something. And so the German what is it? The German guy is like, what is she doing here? You know? Why is she here? And he was like, she
Yeah.
followed me. Like I can't get rid of her and stuff.
Right.
So they bring her and they kind of tell the German guys what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And the German guys say, "Oh, blah blah blah. We're we'll use the girl, for your assistant, because she's already here. If we send her back, it'll look bad, right? So
Right.
let's just keep her here if she wants to be here." So she wanted to be there because she wanted to be with him. He was okay with it, but he was still like very standoffish about it, like please go away. And I get it because he's trying not to get her involved in this really big, you know, deal that he is doing, and he's afraid I think there's a line in the movie where somebody says if she screws up, that could get us
Right.
into a lot of trouble. Is one of
Yeah.
the
Yeah. I
guys.
think that was the main concern. Not that it was very dangerous. Well, it was that too. I mean, they could be tortured to death, but he was afraid she might blow his cover, and
Pretty
that
much.
wouldn't be good at all.
So we kept trying to keep, not tell her the whole story, right? So
Right.
she thinks he's working because later he announces publicly that he's working with the German people, and they're going to be, I don't, what are they doing? Like they're working on a top secret project or something kind of thing.
Well, yeah, but the whole cover is the fact that they want to stop nuclear warfare.
Right.
So they they came up with this ruse that he would come over there. I may have getting ahead of myself, but he was pretending to be defecting. That like he didn't want nuclear warfare, so he came up with an idea on how to stop nuclear missiles, kind of like Reagan's plan when he invented the space war thing, the concept. Like anybody that fires missiles at us will be intercepted by our own missiles. So if we all agree on this, which East Berlin loved that fact because they were threatened by the West, they wanted to stop all nuclear warfare. And so it fit in his plans. And so by going over there, he would pretend to want to do that too
Mm,
and get their secrets about what they knew about nuclear fission and all the bomb projects and then take it back to the United States. So in essence, he's a double agent,
he is a double
but
agent.
nobody knew that. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
he didn't want his wife to know that, but
No.
it became increasingly difficult because she was very hurt that he never wanted to be with her, and he's always sneaking around. And it's hard to keep secrets from your wife or husband if you're so close to them. But
Yeah,
anyway,
especially something that big, like that's being a double agent and then her seeing him like giving them help, the East
yeah,
Berlin people help. At one
yes,
point he's there to do that, and really what he wants is Dr. Lind, who is like this
yes,
guy who's
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
That's all he
He's going to
wants.
fake. He's going to fake. He was going to pretend to give him information. It's like playing chess, and then get the other guy to reveal their
Yep.
information. But they
Um,
finally got caught. Lynch said, "You know nothing." He turned
yep,
around when he was on the blackboard and said, "He he realized he didn't know shit." So see there, I said shit.
yep.
But anyway, so it's an amazing situation. I finally got, I was puzzled at first. Is he a spy? She thought he was a traitor, unpatriotic, and I kind of did too for a while. And I thought, no, there's got to be more to this than that. I don't think
hmm
he would do that. But then
Um,
it's based on a true story about a guy who really did defect. Did you read that somewhere?
I did not. That's new to
Yeah,
me,
it's
so that's
based on a
good.
true story about two scientists in the West who defected to the East, and one of their wives followed them over there. So partially, part of that story is true. I mean,
Oh,
but they just made it seem like it because they wanted to make a Hollywood ending where he gets away with it.
well, I
But
heard that the original ending was even darker. Like I think that it
yes,
ended on them getting caught and everything.
well,
So
yes, yes.
yeah,
So it's not true to form. It's not completely, you know, uh,
but
gospel. But
but anyway, so we also forgot to mention that there's this guy. What's his name? He starts with a G, Grosky or something. Um,
no, grommet,
Gromit.
something like that.
Yes,
Grommet,
Gromit.
grommet, grommet. Yeah,
Uh,
I couldn't stop the movie, so I just and there was no I could
Subtitles.
I couldn't read. Yeah. So anyway, I just made up a word, and then finally, I saw
Yep,
the cast list and
yep.
got
It's
it. Gromit,
And
Gromit, Gromit,
Gromek,
kind of.
Gromek, and he was my favorite
Okay.
character, by the way. He's like
Uh,
the whole time he's talking to Paul Newman, he's like, "Oh, do you still have this? Do you have this pizza place down in New
yeah,
York?
I
Do
know.
you do this? Oh, how do you say this? Oh, right?" And he's all into like the American culture,
Yeah,
and he's like he lived there for
yeah.
a little bit, so he like I think he really enjoyed it, and kind of wished he was back there, I guess, or whatever. But he was in charge of just watching. Um,
He was trying to bond with him. He was
he was
trying to
also
bond with him,
he was
and
also
then
security though, like he was there to
sure,
make
yeah,
sure.
he was trying to get closer to him. Armstrong could care less. Remember how he just kind of dismissed it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's beautiful. It's
Yeah, most of
wonderful.
the time he was
It was
like
like,
that, very short with everybody almost.
yeah, he was very distant.
And I think he did that on purpose. Like I feel like his character was like that because as a spy, you can't give out so much information. And so if you're
Right.
short with everybody, they can't they can't get everything out of you, right? So if if you answer just like yes or no or whatever, but you don't like continue, like I would be a terrible spy because I chat all the time with people and I get
Yeah.
into a lot of trouble that way, right? Because I say the wrong things or do something,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, I
But
understand. I did that to some degree. I just saw in my notes, Armstrong said that he created a defensive weapon that the U.S. did not want because they're very warlike, but that he wanted to give to the East Germans. That was his cover story.
mhm,
So the nuclear war could be abolished. When in reality, he was actually more hawkish. He was he was more in tune with the United States than against them in
right.
reality. But he was just pretending to be. So anyway, they liked that idea. Like, yeah, let's abolish war so the commies can take over. So
Um,
they
so
were in love with that idea.
to go with
Right.
Gromit. So Gromit is following him at one point, right? And riding his motorcycle, and he follows him to like this museum. And that museum was like I wanted to go there. Like I don't know if that was a set or if that was real or whatever. It looked real to me, but that like
Yeah,
German, East
it's in
Berlin,
West.
German,
Yeah, I was over there. It was West Berlin.
West
Yeah,
Berlin. Okay.
we visited East and West and the wall and everything. They left part of the wall up to remind people of what can happen. Like in this country, maybe someday there'll be a wall. The way things are going, because it's very tribal right now. I don't want to get into politics, but
Well,
you know
real
what I'm
quick, I
talking
do
about.
want to mention, I don't know if you ever listened to the band Pink Floyd, but
Yeah,
they had a whole album called The Wall, you know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
The wall of sound. Yeah.
in they had a live thing at East Berlin, or whatever. Like they had one
Oh
in
wow.
Germany, and they actually sang, like they did the whole album, in this
Oh,
concert, and like there was a couple
wow.
of people who came in and sang other things too with them or whatever, like joined them, and like Tim Curry was there, weirdly enough, but random people were there supporting it, and it was one of the best live albums I've ever heard, but. The
Wow.
coolest things, if you watch the videos of it, they show the wall keep getting torn down and tearing down the wall
Ah,
and stuff. It's pretty neat.
uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, they said 5,000 people escaped from there, and several hundred were killed. They went
uh,
over, under, around, through,
yeah.
try to get out.
So,
Um,
yeah, and so, what is it? So Gromit is following him through the museum and everything, and it's kind of suspenseful because you have no idea where Gromit is the whole time. You just hear the footsteps the whole time. I just love that
yeah,
scene because he's just like looking
yeah.
behind him. He can't see the guy, but he can hear him coming. It's just so it's kind of creepy and a bit, like, and he finally gets out through a door and takes off, hails a cab and takes off without Gromit. I guess I don't know how Gromit found him, but Gromit did find him.
That, everybody's talking about that. Like, how did he find him? So I don't know. Whatever. He's
I don't
just
know.
convinced.
There was no, I mean, back then they didn't have like a GPS tracker or anything, on somebody, I don't think. So I don't know.
No,
He ended up finding him. He found him at the farm, but before Gromit got to the farm, Michael got to the farm and chatted with this man who was US, US basically part of the spy group,
right.
and the guy
Um,
chats with them for a little bit, and that was a pretty cool scene too. Like I think he's on
oh,
like a
before
horse.
that. Well, there's a very important scene. Remember when he makes the sign in the dirt of the
Mm,
pie sign? That was his mistake because
mm,
Gromit sees that.
yep.
That's what led to the big fight and everything. But yeah, he talks to that. The guy was an American, right? The farmer,
Hmm.
and he was just pretending to be a farmer, of course. But and he tells him to you have to be very careful. Um, so
And
even
then,
before that, at the bookstore, they said be very careful with this book because it's a first edition.
hmm.
So I'm thinking, what does that mean exactly? That means, it's all one of a kind. So, but anyway, so that pi sign is very important.
A pie
Um,
sign is
and
very important.
so the whole reason he goes to the museum is to shake his tail, shake that guy that's following him and trying to escape. And so I don't know. He must have gotten out right after him and seen the car driving away or something. But
Yep.
um, let's see.
So they
Oh,
get,
when he talked to the American spy on the tractor,
mhm.
they discuss if Sarah knows what's really going on or not. Remember that?
Yep.
And and if she did, would she reveal it? So
See,
they're
that
really
was
worried
once
about
again that
that.
brings back the idea that he was afraid to tell her what what he's doing because like could she could she accidentally give it away to these people,
Yeah.
because she's not a spy or whatever. She's not kind
Yeah.
of trained to be a spy. So him as a spy, he's sort of trained to be that way. He's sort of trained to know what to say or what, like I said, he talks really short. He's very careful what he does generally, except for the pie sign that he made in the dirt, which I think was stupid. I don't even know why he did that. Like it did not
Yeah.
help whatsoever.
They were talking about secret papers too, and I think one of them mentions the fact that he wonders if spies ever know what what's in the secret papers they steal. And then I think Armstrong comments that, well, I know more about what's inside this man's brain than anybody. It takes a scientist to pick a scientist's brain.
Hmm.
So he was, it's more important that he doesn't even have papers, that he can just find out through talking to this guy. But I think this guy surprises him. He knew a lot more than he was aware of.
Like what he led on to
When he
believe, yeah.
yeah, when he saw him make these equations and stuff, he
Yep.
was very impressed. So, and then
So,
the other
well,
guy realized,
let's talk more about inside the farmhouse because that is my favorite scene in the whole movie.
okay, all right,
So Brahmak comes into the farmhouse and right at the time that Michael is basically leaving out the back door, and he says, hey, what are you doing here? What's going on? He's like, oh, I'm just seeing some relatives that, live out here and everything. He was like, oh, this is your relative. Oh, okay. And she's there, I guess, as she's part of the group, the spy group, or whatever. She's part of Pi, right? And so he basically finds out what's going on and threatens to call the German people, and let them know that basically he's a spy now, that he's whatever he's doing something shady. And they
mhm,
they attack him, you know. So they start grabbing him and choking on Gromit. And my favorite part is the fact that she pulls out a knife and she doesn't know what to do, right? Like, so she
mhm.
comes at him, and he's pretty much Gromek's telling her, "Get away from me! Like, don't even dare. You don't know how to do this. Whatever. Leave
Yeah,
me alone."
come on,
Yeah, and she takes the knife and stabs him like up above his chest, and the knife breaks in half. And so you can see some of it still sticking out of him and blood's coming down, but he's he's not moving anymore. So she's like, "What else can I do?" So she picks up a what is it? A
a
pan,
pot or
frying pan,
pan.
and like starts hitting him in the knee,
Yeah.
not making him go down onto the ground. And so, what else can they do to? How are they going to get rid of this guy? Well, let's open up the oven, turn on the gas, and shove his head in there. And the greatest shot in the whole movie, in my opinion, is them when he like lifts him up and they're just dragging him, and you can watch him getting dragged. You almost feel like yourself are being dragged by this by the camera, being pulled or whatever. And so the guy gets pulled into the basically a gas
Other.
chamber in a way, and
The irony of that, because
yeah,
he's German.
yeah.
Did you understand that?
I did not. I
That
didn't even
I
until I
didn't
just said gas
either.
chamber in my
I
head.
read that. Somebody's review says the irony of that, this German Nazi probably was, is being, gassed.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, that's fantastic.
I
I'm
didn't
glad
think
they
about that
put that
either
in there.
until I just said gas chamber, basically. But yeah,
Oh,
so they take him and put him in the head, his head in there, and then you just see from his perspective and his hands going
yeah.
like up and down, and oh my God, it was so
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, the way it flailed in the air and like
Ugh,
it was done very well.
I know that was my
Yeah.
favorite scene in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that in itself gave it high regards. Like, I would watch this
Okay, yeah.
again for some of these
Yeah, yeah.
scenes like that.
I I
Um, it's not
I'd
a
love
movie
to.
that is easy to
Yeah,
watch over and over again, you know?
I think
Um,
I should see that again because I didn't
yeah,
get a chance to. I normally see these things twice. Now, but even before that, when she's hitting him in his knee, he's being strangled, being choked by Armstrong. And then when she hits his knee, he makes a face like, what? It was so funny. Like, you're hitting me in the knee and I'm getting killed anyway, you bitch. And it was
yeah,
like, oh, God. It's like, oh, God. It was so funny, the face
yeah.
he made.
The facing that guy was one of my
Almost,
favorite actors in the whole movie. Like like I said before, I loved him when he was talking to him about everything. Like he was a character, you know.
yeah,
From what I understood, now this is just from doing a little bit of research on it, but what I've understood was that Alfred Hitchcock did not want Paul Newman and Julie Andrews. He did not originally see them as the thing, but the
right,
studio,
right,
Universal at the time, wanted them, and they pushed Paul Newman and Julie Andrews
right,
because at
right.
that time they were probably their biggest money making people, that they had probably had contracts with. A lot of these
But they,
companies had like contracts with actors that they would have to do 3 or 4 movies with them, or
right.
whatever. And so they were like, let's like my favorite story is that the Harvey Weinstein for Chasing Amy wanted what is it? John Stewart. Oh no, it was David Schwimmer, John Stewart, and Drew Barrymore in the movie. And what ended up happening was Ben Affleck, Jason Lee, and Joey Lauren Adams who were no at that time no names. They hadn't made it big at the time and everything. But Kevin Smith wanted those guys because they were written for them. Like he wrote them like for those guys. But Weinstein had deals with all 3 of the other people. So if they were going to make it for like say $5 million or so, that's who they would have cast. Those big names. But they ended up making it for like 100 and no, $200,000 or whatever. Much cheaper.
Oh,
250,000, something in
interesting.
that range. Much cheaper than even $1 million,
Right.
Um, but that's the thing. I think that Paul Newman and Julie Andrews had, these uh contracts, and Universal kept pushing them. And Alfred Hitchcock has said one of my favorite lines that he's ever said to somebody is Paul Newman kept bugging him, saying he wants to do this, you want to do that. And he goes, what is my motivation? Do you know what he said?
No.
Your salary is your
Oh
motivation.
my God. Oh my God. It's just that's just such an acerbic comment. Yeah,
It's such a Hitchcock line, you know?
yeah,
Like I
yeah.
could
He
just see
didn't
him
like
saying that and
actors.
then smiling about it. Your your salary is your
Yeah,
motivation.
right.
Then
Well, he didn't
smiles and
care
then walks
for
away
actors.
because
He
he's
didn't
such a
like actors.
no, well, he didn't like method actors. And because method
No.
actors were people, and we've talked about this before, I think for The Wrong Man, because I think I forgot Henry Fonda or whoever was in The Wrong Man was a somebody big like that was like a method actor, and he it drove him nuts because he just doesn't like method acting. He
Yeah,
thinks that acting should be if I tell you to go here as the director, you go here. You do not argue with me for 5, 10 minutes of time and
right,
wasting my time arguing
right.
with me of why your character won't go there. And I agree with
Yeah,
him.
no, I know.
Like
I
I agree. Like if everything's all set up and ready, you know, um, if you want to bring that up to begin with, like if you want to say, hey, um, Hitchcock or whoever, I want to discuss with you my character before. Like I've done that before with actors, where I've directed actors who have come to me and said, do you mind if I explore going around this area and doing this? Right?
hmm
I think my character would do that. And I've looked at it, and if I did not think that, that was the way to go, I would have told them. Like, no, because it's funny when you're the writer, because an actor thinks, oh, I'm the character. But I'm like, I fucking wrote the character.
hmm
You know,
Yeah.
like I know where I
No,
want my
no.
characters to go or
No,
do if
I
I'm writing
totally
and
get it.
directing, you know?
Yeah. Especially if the director is the writer. You
Right.
don't want to question him. I mean, I'll do it to a small degree, just suggest something, and if the director says no, then it's no. He's the
Then it's
boss,
no.
or she's the boss. So that's the way I work at it. I don't argue about anything because I'm just there getting paid or not getting paid, but whatever. But just whatever it is, I'm doing it. So I don't make a big thing out of it because
I
that
get
could
it.
create friction, and so I just figured the director's a boss, and you can bring it up, and I'm not shy about that, but I don't want worry it to death, and talk about it for 5 or 10 minutes, just like one question, and 30 seconds it's over, one way or the other.
Yep.
So
If you say
when I was
yes, great, go with it. If not, move on.
yeah,
Do what they say.
once in a while, I get my way, and sometimes I don't, and it's okay either way. Because I
Exactly.
was up in Washington, and I was thinking I wasn't intense enough in the last scene. I mean, they loved what I was doing, but I thought I can go one step higher. You want to go with me? And they finally said, "Okay, what do you got in mind?" I said, "I'm going to scream, a primal scream, which is going to scare the shit out of everybody." And so I did it, and it worked. All the actors in the scene, because they weren't expecting that. It made it real to them. I
Yep.
scared them. And so they got the real look in their eyes, like, holy shit, what was that? So anyway,
I
but
I love that.
whatever.
I love like the real and in the moment. That's why I really don't like shot listing and stuff, I like kind of
Yeah,
coming up with shots on the day because
right.
things change. I can have a great shot list in my head, right? And then I can have a great shot list in my head, right? I can have this everything planned. But obviously things won't always go to plan, right?
Right.
You
Right.
know, so sometimes people, sometimes things are, things get changed last minute, and everything.
Mhm.
And you have to just work with it. And I think if you over plan everything, it gets to be too structured to and people aren't in the moment, you know like you
Yeah.
said, if somebody said no, I can't do that because this and this, and it loses that like appeal to it, it loses that, um, feeling. So anyway, Alfred
Right.
Hitchcock did not like method actors. He doesn't like people telling him basically how to direct, in a way. And so he
Right.
didn't. Julie Andrews got along with him, but she's not his type. If you watch all his
No.
movies, he likes that hot, like fucking Grace, um, Princess Grace, kind of shit.
Right.
He likes,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, Janet Leigh, these beautiful blonde vixens. He doesn't like Julie Andrews, who looks like Mary Poppins, 'cause she is. But
Well, she's
like,
too vanilla. She's too vanilla.
yeah,
Very innocent, sweet, hurt easily. And she doesn't have a chip on her shoulder like a lot of his women did in his movie. He liked the women that are feisty, fierce, and combative.
I think that's
And
another reason why I didn't like Tippi Hedren much. Because she's just not
maybe,
feisty like
yeah,
that. She's sweet.
yeah, she didn't like
And
him
I
either.
felt terrible. And one day, I think this season we might do the birds, if not next season. We gotta do the birds at some point. But Tippi Hedren, she just wasn't feisty. Julie Andrews is not feisty. These actresses aren't like that. So he
Yeah.
almost doesn't feel like he has anything to work with, I feel like, you know?
Right. I felt that way too. It pulled me out of the whole thing. I was like, this is a bad fit. Paul
Hmm.
Newman and with I mean Paul Newman would have been fine, but not her. And she was great in other movies, but different types of movies. I mean, she was excellent in Mary Poppins and what's the one about the nun? That one and Sound of Music,
Sound of
but
Music,
stuff
yeah.
like that where she plays a sweet, innocent person. But not this. I
Not
thought,
this. Nope.
what? Miscast totally.
I
So,
know.
like
But
you
once
said,
again, I
probably,
think it's just the studio just wanted somebody who
yeah,
had a
yeah,
name, like it draws attention. This was one of the biggest money makers for him at that time. Like this was the one of the biggest grossing movies at that time. And it's
sure.
because it had fucking Paul Newman and it's one of Hitchcock's least favorite movies that he worked on and or probably he probably, like me, enjoyed some of the scenes in the movie that he made, but he didn't enjoy the making of it, and he probably didn't enjoy the outcome of it, compared
Right.
to what it could you imagine Grace Kelly in that role? Would have been phenomenal.
Mhm.
I think she was passed on like from acting that time. I think she had already become Princess of Monaco, but or she
Maybe that's right. Yeah,
might not have
yeah, it
been
could be.
alive, but she would have been great. Uh, Janet Leigh would have been great. I don't know if he wanted to work with her again. Vera Miles. There are some great actresses that he's worked with in his life
Mhm.
that would be just perfect. But unfortunately, Julie Andrews, sweet as can be. But it just didn't feel like her role. So,
Yeah,
um, but all right, so after he kills, we got to the part where he kills the guy or whatever, like the gassed Gromit, and he has to leave as quickly as possible. The farmers, the farmer's wife, I guess, or whatever, says she'll take care of everything, and I don't I don't remember how, but they found out uh where like he went, like that guy went. So later in the
what
story,
guy?
Gromit, they found out that he went to that.
Oh, the taxi driver told him. He
Oh,
squealed.
he
Yeah, that's how
squealed. Okay.
he squealed. Yeah,
Oh,
because he
so
saw him go in the house and he didn't come out. And they finally found the motorcycle and the body. I
yeah,
mean,
that's
it didn't
later.
dig him very deep.
But
Well,
it was funny. So he leaves the farm, goes back, and this is the time where he's wants to meet Professor Lind, and he wants to uh he has to talk to everybody, and they get together, in this like classroom thing, and he's
Mhm.
chatting with the people, kind of telling them some information. They're talking to him, and then all of a sudden, one of the guys comes in and starts talking to him about everything that's going on, and it turns out that they knew about the farmhouse, right? And that this guy had gone there. Gromit had gone to the farmhouse. And so they
Right,
asked him, "Have you been to this farmhouse?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, I have some family or whatever." And they said, "Did you see Gromit?" He goes, "Gromit? No, I never saw Gromit, there or whatever." And they don't believe him, you know.
right.
And they're like, "We can't do something, until we get this investigation going." And Professor Lind has to leave soon, you know. Oh, and we forgot to mention, God dang, man, we forgot to mention that lady, the other lady who's helping him with pie, trips him, makes him fall down the stairs,
Oh
and
yeah, that was the next thing. Right. The
yeah,
scientist. Forgot her
yeah,
name,
but she was like
but I
playing a
mean
nurse.
I think that was heavily criticized. Like, why did she need to do that? I mean, he could have been seriously hurt. In fact, he was hurt. Why
Yep.
didn't she just think of another excuse to drag him in there? It's like, can you help me with something? I'm not familiar with this kind of parasite, or can you look under the microscope, or think of anything but trip him. He could have broken his neck. So I
I
think
know.
they were wondering why Hitchcock did that. Maybe he was so bored he wanted to shake people up a little bit. I
Maybe
mean,
you wanted to
there are a lot
trip
of
Paul
suggestions.
Newman.
Yeah, I don't know if they
He's
got
like, Paul
along or
Newman's
not.
annoying me. Originally, I have this scene where they go up there,
Yeah,
let's have him where he gets tripped.
yeah, I don't know the
I don't know.
backstory behind their
Um,
their collaboration, but
so anyway,
um,
she kind of explains some stuff to him about what's going on or whatever, that he needs uh that she's working, that she's working for them, for the pie group and
yeah,
stuff, and that she's, she's basically going to help him and his wife get out, get out safely and stuff. Um Meanwhile,
well,
so when what were you gonna say?
yeah, he even asked her. He said, "Did you really have to trip me to get me to come in here?" He even says that. He says, "Well, I mean, it seemed like the thing to do at the time." Is it?
Yeah,
I
I think
I disagree.
literally, and maybe that was in the writing. They were just like, "How are we gonna get just trip them?" You know.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but
And then we'll have this like little explanation of it. So anyway, so yeah, so they go and they meet in the classroom, and they're like, "Okay, bring in the assistant. She'll tell everything to us." So the assistant comes in
yeah,
and finds out, "Oh shit, he's really working with these guys." And she doesn't want to deal with them, you know, and she doesn't want to tell him anything. So she takes off, and they're like, "You need to convince her, to do this, blah blah blah."
right.
So the only way he can think to convince her is to actually tell her what's going on. And
Well, did we miss something there? Did I miss something? Because he takes her up on this little hill. They take a walk outside, right? And they're watching him. And their animation, it was all MOS. They didn't hear him, but they did. She seemed like, she's folding her arms, turning away from him. And then finally, she goes kind of like, oh.
yeah,
So
because
he must have
he told her to what he was doing, his plan. Because
that he was,
after that, you see sort of the shift of her
yeah.
helping, and then her knowing all this information that she didn't know before.
But the audience is totally in the dark. And
Well,
maybe he
I
wanted
mean,
to like that, so we could figure it out for ourselves.
I
It
guess
was
it's
more
also
more
like
intriguing.
it would it made it look cooler, because it made us look like we were the German guys watching them,
Yeah,
and the whole time, if you watch that and you're the German guy watching that, you might be wondering in your head, like, what did he say to convince her? Right?
exactly.
And so they look suspicious, because she all of a
Well,
sudden she's all over him right after
it's
that.
very
Yeah.
true. I'm always saying you should study people's body language more than words that come out of their mouth,
Mhm.
because people can be lying. You watch about their gestures, and that really tells a story.
All
You
right.
know, if they're including you, excluding you, fighting you, tricking you, there's different things that you can look for, and
Right.
rather than words. So that was really an interesting way to do it.
Uh-huh.
Um, so they could have taken that either way, whether he was tricking them or was he just tricking her?
Right. Which
So
was and we the audience might even be wondering that too, because
yeah,
already we have found him out to be a double agent. What if he's a triple
yeah,
agent? What if he's an agent for another government company?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it could have gone anywhere else. Like it could have gone that he was actually working for Russia, and this whole thing was like an elaborate ruse from Germany to Russia to English, like who knows? Because
Well, it
that's
wasn't
that's the whole
resolved at the end. At the end, it wasn't totally resolved that he was any of those things.
right.
It made it look like he was a good guy at the end, but who was he? You know, maybe
I don't
there's
know.
a sequel there.
Well, he
So
never
anyway,
did
but that's
sequels,
a
if you
great,
ever noticed
yeah.
that. You never noticed that he has only done one remake, and that was a remake of his own movie.
Uh,
He's never done sequels and stuff because I don't think he ever felt. Now there were sequels like The Birds got a Birds 2, Psycho got a Psycho 2, but like North by
huh.
Northwest never got a part 2.
Well, did you pre? Did
But
I don't know many actors who've done their own remakes. That's kind of unusual. It's usually other actors that do the remake,
oh
right?
no, they didn't have the original actors. So in Man Who Knew Too Much in 19 whatever, there was one actor, I forgot who it was, and then the remake was Jimmy Stewart. So they didn't have the same people back. They had a new cast and it was just
Oh, okay.
done, it was just done I don't know how to describe it, but like kind of I think he knew he could do better, you know? Like he wanted to do better. Um
Mhm.
to be honest, I haven't seen both of them in a while. It'll be funny because we'll watch maybe one season and the next season, and it'll be funny to see what our thoughts are, like which one we think is a better movie, you know.
Mm, okay.
That'll be up to us. Um, but so yeah, so in this movie, you know, uh, he convinces his wife to basically go along with everything because he's a spy for the Americans, and he goes and um, and they start planning everything. So she meets with that lady. I think like, oh no, before then they go have dinner with the with Professor Lind and the other German guy who's been trying to dance or do stuff with the lady, but once he starts realizing he's getting close to Professor Lind, he starts. Do you notice he starts like kind of changing his tune? He's like, no, 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 I want to stay here. Make sure you guys don't say anything that, shouldn't be said, or
Right.
whatever. Um, you know what I'm
Good
talking
point.
about? The
Good point.
what?
I think I do. Yeah, you're making a good point there. Yeah. He's very cautious what to say and who to say it to, and so he's kind of in an awkward position, kind of in between all these people.
Yeah, he wanted to go dance with a beautiful woman, but he didn't want to leave the side and make sure that some information wasn't accidentally said.
Exactly.
And
Okay.
so then the guy says, basically, fine, I'll go dance with her or whatever, and Professor Linden him have a conversation, which we don't see. Once again, we don't we don't get any of that part. And I know you were wondering before we started, did you miss anything, right? With that
Right.
sort of thing.
Right.
You didn't. They didn't
Okay.
ever set up them becoming besties. They just had one scene where Professor Lind and him are talking, and you can tell that like they're building up a camaraderie together. They like each other, you know? And he invites him the next day to like meet up at his house, or whatever, his school, his class, I think it was, you know? and
Mhm.
or whatnot, and then he goes to do that, but he has to be back at the other place so that he can get on the bus, right? So to
Right.
leave, to go back home. So there's a little bit of that ticking clock thing where he was already like an hour late. They were supposed to be there at 9, and it was already 10 something.
Oh yeah, it's after 10. Yeah,
Yeah.
10
And
minutes after
so,
10.
yeah, and he doesn't care because all I think he thinks he can just find some other way out at some point, if he needs to. But all in all, what he doesn't realize is they found those people, the Germans have found both of the motorcycle and Gromit. So now they want to talk to him to find out if he is, if he's who he says he is, or if he's really a spy, if he killed Gromit, all this stuff. Which I mean, he did. Um, uh, so he's at the classroom with the
Yeah.
professor, and man, that did those all those like equations and stuff give you a headache looking at them? Because man, I was just like,
That's the part I missed. I think because my computer glitched for a second and I lost the movie. And then by the time I got it back, I was a little ahead. It had gone ahead without me and
okay.
I didn't go back. I didn't see the blackboard thing at all. So
So
that's
on
when
the
he wrote the
blackboard,
equation.
yeah, so on the blackboard, there's just a bunch of different equations. And it was a pretty cool scene. It was like, it was funny because it was like them playing a game together, like who's better at math than the other. So Paul Newman walks up to the blackboard and starts doing stuff like fixing the equation. And Professor Len's like, no, 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 that you got this all wrong. This is the right thing. And he goes, no, 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 we've tried that. Our stuff blew up doing that. We need to try it like this. And then he's like, no, 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 no. You blow up if you do it this way, and they get into this fight. And eventually, Paul Newman goes, oh my God, you got it right. Like that's it. That's exactly what I need to know, you know? And Professor Lind gets mad at him, is like, wait a minute, you came here for
You know
this.
nothing.
Yeah, you know
You know
nothing.
nothing.
And he starts racing everything so that but I think by that time he's already sort of memorized what he needs to do in his
Yeah.
head.
He-
And so
yeah.
Professor Lin says, you stay here, don't go anywhere. I'm calling, whatever. And of course, what does Paul Newman do? Just runs out as quickly as he can. And
But
and what
how did they become buddies again on the bus?
oh, that wasn't this,
What?
and that wasn't Professor Lind on the bus.
Oh, you're talking about a different scientist.
No, that was a
Right?
completely different guy
Oh,
on the
well, then I
bus.
didn't see that.
Yeah, it was a different guy on the bus. He's
Are you
not
kidding?
part.
I thought that was the head scientist
Hmm.
with a little goatee and
Yeah, it's like another guy with a little goatee, but it's not the same guy, I don't believe.
oh, wasn't? Sure
I didn't
seemed
think
like
of
it.
that as that. I thought, um,
That's why I was wondering how did they become friends? He saved him from the police.
no, this guy's name is Mr. Jacoby.
Oh,
And Mr.
all right.
Jacoby is the guy in the car in the bus. Yeah, completely different guy. Yeah, they
Oh,
look
okay.
similar. I could get that,
All right.
but they weren't the
Okay.
same guy. No,
All right.
he's very, he was also one of my favorite characters because that bus scene was my second favorite scene of the whole movie. You know, where I mean the bus stuff where they get on the so yeah, I guess so he escapes everybody looking for him, he keeps kind of doing like little things to kind of keep getting hidden by all these people. And he
Yeah.
goes up into a what is it? He goes up to where he needs to be, right? To meet up with those people,
Right.
to meet up with
Right.
his wife and the lady that's helping him, the nurse. And they go out and they kind of escape and go to the bus. And the bus is late now because they have now made the bus late. And they get into the car, into the bus, and they're in the back, and Mr. Jacoby, this guy, explains everything. Like they're part of this group that is basically there to they he explains it in a nice way where it's like it's a basically a round trip ticket basically where they would take the bus to wherever they needed to drop the person off, like the travel agency, I think it was what it was, right? So they're taking the bus to the travel agency to drop them off, and then the rest of the people would drive back, right? In the bus. So the bus is on the same bus line as a real bus, a regular bus. So they're passing by people who are waiting for the bus. And at one point, they laugh at the people, like the poor schmoes that are just, like, hey, um, why did you guys not stop for me? Right? They kind of laugh at that because they're not there to pick them up. They're there to just keep going. But what happens is what is they get two roadblocks, right? Remember the
Right.
two roadblocks? The first one was
Yeah.
what? The
Well,
police.
they're thieves. They're fake
Well, the
police.
first one
They're
was the
thieves.
police, right?
No, the second one was the police,
No,
wasn't
the
it?
first one was the police. The first one was the police. The police came in looking for the people and they had to like block them so they didn't see the Americans, or whatever. Like Mr. Jacoby starts talking to somebody else and
No, no,
blocks.
no, no. Wait a minute. No, no. He was talking to somebody that was the second one.
No, that was the first one. The second one was the thieves.
Well, what about the third one then?
There was no
There
third
was
one.
well then, no, I saw it differently. The first one was thieves. Second one was the real police. They came on. That one guy walked down the aisle, and then the older guy turned to somebody else, and he started doing something with him. I can't remember what it was. And then the guy left the bus, and they all heaved a sigh of relief. That's when the old woman got on, right? And then the third time they arrested the old woman. Everybody left the bus, and they arrested her, the real slow old woman. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that, but
This old woman gets on the bus, and they're behind because the other buses, the real bus, is
yeah,
catching up with them. And they go,
yeah.
get on the bus, God damn it! And this old woman, they're dragging her on,
So
and she's very infirm.
so what I remember is that the first block there's a roadblock and they say, "Oh my God, there's a roadblock," and it was the police. And the police come in and they start looking because they're looking for both Americans, right? They're trying to find them and they're, looking around and the people get off or whatever and leave and that's fine. The second time they're like, "What is this block? We got another roadblock." And they go, "Oh no, they're thieves. They're highway thieves or whatever." And so the people get on the bus and start looking for what is it, jewelry and whatnot, and then all of a sudden the military come in and take care of the people, uh take care of the thieves and stuff. But the problem is the military want to help them get safely so that they don't have this problem again. Problem is now they have to stop at every stop, you know. So they keep doing that. So they have to stop at they have to look like they're really, a bus. Problem is when they stop, that other bus is catching up to them, because they're stopping. So they pick up the old lady, they drive, and so yeah, and then what is it? Um, and then the bus starts to see, they start noticing, oh no, they notice the other bus coming, so we're gonna have to pull over soon so that they can talk to us about this, right? And stuff. So they pull over and they say, you need to meet them at this certain, you need to go to this certain travel agency. And they say, okay, we're gonna get off and go to this travel agency. So they get off the bus and the military are talking to the other bus first, with their backs turned. Every time they turn their back, everybody just like starts scattering and running as quickly as ever. And finally, the bus driver notices it, goes, "Hey, look over there!" And the the guy, what is it? The military guy comes out and just starts shooting everybody, but doesn't hit anything. Thank God. So I was like, "Oh God, are they actually going to kill any of these people?" But it's a
Well, people fell down. I saw all of that. Some people fell down. I thought they were shot.
okay. Maybe they
Uh,
were shot. I didn't
but
notice that. I only saw
but that
the people running.
leads to my favorite scene. You may not agree about the Countess that kind of adopted them
Yeah,
and took them over. She was remarkable. I thought, my God, what a great actress she was. I
she
mean,
was
she was
great.
laughing, crying, a little neurotic. I mean, a lot of
She was
neurotic.
she was a
And
character, and
Gary, yeah, I
apparently,
loved her performance.
so this goes back to Hitchcock not enjoying working with Paul Newman and Julie Andrews so much. He started enjoying more working with the other actors, the German actors who were there. He enjoyed working with
Yeah.
them more. And she was
Uh,
such a delight to him that he invited her to dinner with him and his wife. So,
whoa. I did
yeah.
not know that.
Yeah, so and she
Okay,
was
well,
my
good
favorite
trivia.
character. She was my favorite character. I really,
Yeah, that's me too. I mirror marked her for my favorite more than
yeah,
anything. But
she was hilarious and she cracked me up at times and I was just like she's my favorite female. I like the male
yeah,
security guard and I liked her, like those two were just because they were characters. They were people
yeah,
who looked like they were having fun being in this movie. You know what I mean? Like everybody
right.
else, a lot of times, even Paul Newman at times seemed very stiff, seemed very serious. Everything had to
Oh
be,
yeah, I did not like him in this.
yeah, it
I
seemed
think
like
he
they
was
were very
miscast
stiff
too.
and whatnot. But all the other characters, Professor Lind was fun. The
Yeah,
German guy who's, curious about everything, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. I liked him, I liked
yeah,
everybody else other than the main leads. And I feel like a lot of
yeah.
films do that sometimes where the main leads are kind of milk toast compared to like everybody else, you know?
Well, they probably didn't want to be in this movie, and I think that was part of it. Because
Well, they
yeah,
probably
he
were
didn't give
excited to
much.
work with Hitchcock, but that was it, you know?
I I I usually like Paul Newman, like some like Cat on a Hot Tin Roof and Cool Hand Luke and stuff like that, but not in this one. I was very disappointed.
Could
It's
you
just
imagine what,
didn't give anything.
could you imagine being somebody's favorite actor at that time or whatever, and like a big time director, and they say, would you like to come to dinner with me and my wife? Like, like if there was I don't even know who the equivalent of Steven Spielberg worked with you and says, you worked with him on Hook, I think, or whatever. But
I
say you
worked
had a
on
bigger,
two things. Yeah,
yeah,
Catch Me If You Can and Hook.
but say
Yeah,
you worked with him on a bigger movie, and had a bigger part, and he was like, "Oh my God, this actor, is G Larry Butler. I love him. I adore him. Let's would you like to have dinner with me and my wife?" What would you say?
I'm a little busy tonight, but maybe next week.
You're, of
No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Yeah, of course, I'd be
course, you'd
overwhelmed.
be
Yeah,
all like, yeah, overwhelmed, and you'd be
yeah,
excited.
sure.
And I think that's just nice. I don't think many directors do that anymore. I don't think they invite
Not too
people
many.
over. I think it's,
Except for you, Jonathan. You invited me to dinner,
yeah, we've had
so
dinner.
I guess it's kind of like an omen for the future, maybe.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, when you get to be that, and it's funny because when you get to be that big, like Hitchcock big, you know,
yeah,
um, you probably himself, maybe he knows he's famous, but he doesn't treat himself like a famous person. You know what I mean? He doesn't, uh, when I think of a famous person, I think like a Kardashian or something. And I
right,
guarantee
right.
you they are very sort of more stuck up than Hitchcock would be,
Well, they're
about.
self-aware. of their importance. Yeah.
Yeah, they're a little bit more. And Hitchcock probably just embraced like growing up and becoming, he had to work his butt off to become this person that he was, and everything.
I read that he was terrified of people. He'd always have an escort wherever he went. If he had to go to the bathroom, he'd have somebody with him so they could deflect anybody that comes up to Hitchcock. Oh, I love your movies, or can I have an autograph? He needed a guard at all time. So,
I had a big celebrity do that to me too.
oh
It was Norman Reedus, who's in The Walking Dead. I had met him
wow,
at a horror convention in 2011 when before Walking Dead came out, like the year that it
uh-huh.
came out, but like before it even came out. And he was just like hanging out with everybody, right? He would come down and everything. Next year, the complete next year, I'm at another horror convention and I come up to say
Yeah,
hello because we had met before. And I wanted to say, hey, it's great seeing you at the conventions again. So I came up to see him. He turns around, but he has two like kind of security guards next to him. And both guys are like, hey, like, put their hand up, kind of like stay back. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm just here to say, hey, it was great seeing you here or whatever, kind of thing. It like threw me off because I wasn't used to all of a sudden
sure.
he had like fucking bodyguards, and I get it because he was on a show that was becoming a hit, like he couldn't just
Yeah,
walk down the street, somebody could punch him out or do something, like whatever.
yeah,
And what is he gonna do, when he has to go to set the next day or something, with a black eye, you know what I mean? Like and things.
yeah,
Um,
sure.
but the point being that I don't, yeah, I don't think I wouldn't be surprised if Hitchcock had like sort of people kind of like telling people, "Hey, stay away from him." We don't want people like attacking him or something or whatever, touching him, you know. Um,
Sure.
uh, so yes, so we meet the lady, this very sweet lady who realizes who they are. First off, like she knows these are Americans who are wanted by the law. So
Yeah,
she wants her sponsorship, you know, from the to go to stay at the US, and that's all. She just needs
right.
sponsors, and she's trying to explain to them this, and she goes through like 12 emotions throughout the whole,
Yeah,
like,
I
she's like
know.
she's
That's
like,
right. Great,
oh,
great
nobody
performance.
wants to be my sponsor. You be my sponsor, blah, 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 right? Doing
Yeah,
like all these million things. And eventually they said, yeah, I would love to be your sponsor if you can just get us to the place we need to go to, right? So she helps them out, and he's supposed to go to this post office and ask for what was the guy's name? Um, Albert, Sir Albert. So are you Albert? Albert?
yeah.
And she
That
keeps,
that was a great scene too.
I know, she keeps bothering everybody. Like every time the person comes out, she's like, Albert, can you help me? Albert, whatever. And the people are just like, stop, like leave me alone. Like I'm trying to do my job here.
Well, it
And
shows the desperation of the people that they have to wait in long lines all day, and then some days they don't even get to speak to whoever they want to speak to, and so that's the frustration of it in these countries that you have to wait for like 3 hours for a loaf of bread,
right.
and we don't ever experience that kind of lines. I
Uh,
recently did coming home from Seattle.
I'm sorry, man. Have you ever been to In and Out?
I avoid that place like the plague.
Exactly. You know
So,
why? Because it's fucking
for
busy as
other
shit.
reasons. Well,
Yeah.
it's because they put sugar in the meat and the buns and everything. I looked it up. They have more sugar and more fat than any hamburger place in history.
No wonder I
Still
love it.
wonder. Yeah, that's why people love it because
Yeah.
they trick you. But I'm diabetic. I cannot eat that stuff.
Oh, damn.
So
Okay,
I
yeah.
never eat there.
Well, that
So
makes sense. I will not invite you to In and Out ever.
no, I can't. I have to throw the buns away because they're full of sugar. Sometimes I've been there a couple of times and I ask them, can you put lettuce around it? Like they'll do that. And Carl's Jr. will too. But a lot of people go, ooh, you put lettuce on your hamburger? Well, that's my bun. I don't use bread.
Oh, so you don't eat the
So,
bread, but you eat lettuce
no, I
around.
never
Okay,
ate bread. I gave up
interesting.
bread years ago, and I lost 75 pounds because of it. A lot of people don't realize bread is very fattening.
Bread makes you
So
fat.
if, if you stop bread and grain, you won't be fat anymore because it's full of carbohydrates.
And
So
that is
anyway,
our gym lesson for the day.
yeah, I just thought I'd sneak that in. Um, let's see. Okay, where are we here?
So
Well,
we're at the
anyway,
post office and the
well, she's a sobbing heap. He leaves her huddled in a corner, sobbing hysterically because, I lost my sponsor.
well
And I don't know.
before then somebody noticed the two Americans, so they went and got the police or whatever to come after them. So they finally got Sir Albert to give them the information they needed, and they leave, right? And they leave without as fast
Oh,
as
yeah,
they can, leaving the lady by herself, and she lost her sponsors, yeah, and it was
yeah.
sad.
Okay.
It was sort of
Uh,
sad. I mean,
Wait a minute. Didn't they go to a concert or something, right? A ballet
yeah.
that
Well, they
night?
meet up before then. They meet up with the farmer guy, the tractor
Oh
guy.
yeah, the American Spy. He
Yeah.
tells them to meet at the concert place, and then
Yep.
there's a special door. Oh no, 1 minute after lights out, or when it starts, when it goes dim, when it starts, so nobody sees them, and then they leave an intermission. They find the big red door or something, right? And some guy, they got to knock at the door. But
Well,
before that,
before then wasn't the didn't they got caught at that place, right? They got caught
they got
at
hot.
the concert. They like all of a sudden all the guards were coming and
Oh
stopping
no,
them at
no,
every
no,
exit.
no, no. Go back. The woman on the stage, the diva,
Yeah.
the star, it focuses on her eyes. She's got hawk-like vision. She could see that far in the audience. That there he is. There's the guy
Yep.
they're
So
looking
she
for. So
goes
he
and
points
talks
him
to one
out.
of the guys and gets everybody to all of a sudden it gets out there that
Well,
that
all the
they're there.
police swarm the place. They're at each door, and then
Hmm.
the head guy that's looking for him is walking slowly from aisle to aisle to aisle, checking it, and they get closer and closer. And finally, Armstrong goes, "Shit, I got to do something." But this is what I don't understand. He yells, "Fire!" This is
Hmm.
fucking Germany. It's not the United States. Why is
I
everybody
think
going?
Germany people know what fire means. Like I think
Well,
they understand
hopefully. I was thinking,
that for
I looked it up. I looked, what's German for fire? And I Googled it. It's Fuhrer, so I guess it's close enough. But I was
yeah.
thinking, wait a minute, I found a fly in the ointment here. But I guess Hitchcock was ahead of me. It's
Uh,
close enough to
it was
Fuhrer.
close enough, and so
Anyway, so
when
anyway,
people call Hitler Mein Führer, they're saying my fire.
yeah,
Weird.
right.
Didn't know that.
It's exactly. He lit a fire under their pants,
I
under their
guess.
butt.
I
So
didn't know
anyway,
that.
so
I never knew that. I didn't even know what Führer meant.
like
Like I just
fire.
thought it meant like
Yeah,
my
I
my
thought that
master,
too.
my dictator or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, my
So
leader.
anyway,
Um, yeah, so he says fire, everybody starts leaving, and that's also one of my favorite scenes because all of a sudden they get swept away with all these different people and they have to kind of go through everybody. It's almost like a maze of people trying to get there, and it's just like squeezing in through all these people, and it looked very uncomfortable, and everything. And I was like, that is great. I don't know how they like choreographed that, but that went really well, you know.
yeah, it was a big mob, and it was total chaos. They got separated. Sarah and Mike got separated, but they found each other. He kind of got really aggressive and swam downstream and found her. And then they knocked or banged on that big door, and they let him in.
Let them
And then
in.
they put him in the baskets.
They put them in the
Right? I thought that was
baskets.
pretty clever.
Yep.
And
And then they took the baskets and put them on the boat.
right,
And the boat was run by the lady who we see in the beginning of the movie. So it ties back to the beginning of the movie. The
Yeah,
lady who gets getting off the plane, in the beginning of the movie, who's getting like she's like waving to everybody like she's super duper special or something, you know?
wasn't she the diva in the concert?
I think so.
Wasn't that
Maybe
the
she
one in the
was.
opera? I don't know what the hell it was, opera or ballet or something.
Maybe it
But
was her.
both. Yeah,
But
that's the
so
one. So
yeah,
she's world
okay, so it
famous.
was her. So she is on the boat and she notices like that they have the baskets up on a crane thing, and
Right.
everything. And the guy starts talking to the baskets and saying, "Good luck,"
Yeah.
blah blah blah. And the lady
Yeah.
notices
Yeah.
that and says, there, those are opening them up, shoot them, and blah blah blah. And so the people start shooting the baskets, and you're thinking when you're watching this movie, you're like, "Oh my God, are they dead?" And if it were a
Yeah.
down ending, that's probably where it would have ended.
That's
They
a red herring. Yeah, Hitchcock threw that in to
yeah,
scare the shit out of us.
I
And he did.
know.
And
He
I
did.
thought,
I
well,
was
it's
worried. I thought, oh
that.
shit, did they, because I didn't think that I didn't know. And so they had actually switched them out of that and did all that stuff so that they can jump out and I guess do they swim? They swam to
Well,
the
they pan over to the other side where you see baskets that have already been open. It's like, oh, they're on the other side,
yep.
so they got out earlier. And then, yeah, they're in the water swimming, and then they get rescued by the other ship. There's another ship, I guess, with Americans or something. But
Yeah.
so they get out of there. But she's very disappointed. Of course, she's such a bitch. I would have loved to slap her.
Mm.
She's that type of person, with that horrible expression on her face, and because she looked ugly.
Would she be
But
like a Karen now? Would she be
yeah,
what's like classified as a Karen?
super Karen.
Yeah.
Um, so
There's a
yeah,
movie
she's
title for you, Super
like
Karen.
a human monster. Um, so anyway, let's see what else. So all the clothes are out on the floor, and you saw that they got out okay, and they flee to the other side, jump in the water, got saved. The diva's pissed. Um, her name was Lila Kadrova. Oh no, that was the Countess. I forget what her name was. Such a memorable performance. Uh, but it's a Cold War story based on a true story. Um, but I just think that both actors were miscast in this, and so Gromit died in an oven. Um, and Michael fools Professor Lent,
Right?
and what? Well, anyway, we already talked about that. Um, so his cover was blown, but he gets away, escapes, and so that's yeah. It turned out to be a pretty good movie after all. But I just was frustrated because I watched it in such a weird way, with commercials every 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I need to actually rent it next time.
I want to
So I
buy it.
just
I think it is on 4K now and stuff, and I would love to have it. It is a movie that, even though it's not my favorite of Hitchcock's films or whatever, I still like, once again, I love certain scenes in the movie that, the death by the gas chamber. Even now that you kind of mentioned that it
uh,
was sort of ironic,
well
that makes
the
it even better.
dark humor, yeah, dark humor, irony.
The bus
Yeah,
scene, they have to pick up the people after a bit, and it's just like it's a Hitchcock suspense shit, it's his
yeah.
typical
I
stuff.
even enjoyed that one woman. We didn't talk about her. That kept arguing with him, like, "Get them off the bus! Throw them off the bus!
Oh
They're gonna get caught."
yeah,
Remember?
I was gonna mention her and I forgot, like when we got in
That,
our
that was
conversation, but
another Karen.
yeah,
So
well she just
so they
yeah she
threw her.
annoyed the fuck out of me. I'm like, just get off the fucking bus, Jake. You don't want
Really,
to be there, you know.
they should have just threw her off, but they didn't.
No,
They decided,
the Mr. Jacoby kept yelling at her like, "Hey, calm down, chill out.
yeah, I
Everything's
know.
gonna be fine." You know, um, and
He
I
was too
mean,
polite.
literally, if you're stuck in that situation, you gotta just go with it. you know, and
Yeah,
stuff. You can't just be
yeah,
like, oh, these Americans are gonna blah blah blah. We never dealt with police before. Yeah, whatever. Just go with it.
yeah,
They're all going with it,
yeah.
so you'll figure it out. Um, anyway, I liked the movie a lot. I thought it had some really good moments. I would like to learn more about it, see what Hitchcock really thought about it. Like I know, like I read, like he was not a fan, but on working on it, I don't know if that meant that he wasn't a fan of the movie itself, or whatever. But I
Yeah.
guess we'll
Well,
find out later if we looked it up. Well,
well,
I guess that's about it. That about wraps it up.
no.
We
What's our
discussed the
next
whole
movie?
film. What is our
Uh,
next? I know
what,
what our
what,
next movie is going to be. It's one I'm really excited about because we reviewed it for Criterion Watch before, but I wanted to do it on here because we haven't done it on this podcast yet. And I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it's the film Rebecca, um, which is fuck, it's okay. So it is one of my favorite Hitchcock movies. Like of the movies that like not a lot of people talk about for sure.
yeah.
It's not forgotten or anything. A lot of people still do talk about it, but it is still one of my favorite movies of his. And I have a feeling you'll like it too. Um I'm
I'm
not sure
sure
where you can watch it yet.
I've heard a lot about it. So it's a lot of people's favorites, or one of their favorites.
Yeah, well, I guess you'll have to figure it out online somewhere if you can find it.
That's fine. Yeah, well, I mean, if I have to rent it, I will.
Yeah.
So it'll make it easier.
Yeah.
But,
So you don't
but
have to, yeah, you don't
I
have
don't
to
have
watch
an
every two
Amazon
seconds of
account.
commercials.
Yeah, I stopped my Amazon account, and now I wish I hadn't. That was another problem. So anyway, yeah, I look forward to that. So that'll be next month, or
Next month's movie, yep.
all right,
So
okay,
January's movie, which will be a lot of fun. We'll bring in the new year with
okay,
Rebecca, which means to tell
okay.
you that everybody, this is the last episode of 2023 for Hooked on Hitchcock. So join us next year where we'll be talking about Rebecca, which I'm really excited about, and I think Larry's going to be excited about too. It is a definitely a much better movie than this, And Laurence Olivier and um,
Oh, interesting.
yeah, some great actors. Laurence Olivier and Olivia or Joan Fontaine. I'm sorry,
Oh
Joan
yeah.
Fontaine.
Okay, very
Great
good. So
cast, and I mean this is a quintessential Hitchcock. Um, I do remember him having problems with David Selznick for it, and whatnot, but it was about the same time that it was 1939, the same year, 1940. It's like right after Gone with the Wind and everything.
ah, okay.
I think you'll
Well,
really like it. And
classic.
everybody else, I go watch that movie before we do our review, so you can listen to us talk about this.
Yeah,
And if you haven't
we
seen
could
Torn
join.
Curtain, go see Torn Curtain. We kind of gave you the whole plot, but you still need to see it. There's some great scenes in that movie that are just worth it, just for that. So until then, everybody, hope you guys have a good one. And thank you, Larry.
Dankeschön. Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Dankeschön.
All right. Bye, everybody.